There's a certain kind of exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. You wake up after 8 hours and still feel heavy. Not in your body, but somewhere deeper. It's like your soul is carrying invisible luggage you can't put down. And when people ask what's wrong, you can't point to anything specific, because it's not one big thing that broke you. It's 1,000 little things that quietly drained you over time. See, people who are tired of existing don't necessarily want to disappear. They just want the noise to stop. The noise of expectations, the noise of comparison, the noise of pretending to be okay when every day feels like a performance you didn't audition for. Psychologists call this state emotional exhaustion, a point where the mind stops fighting, not out of weakness, but out of depletion. Music, it happens when your emotional output has exceeded your emotional input for too long. When you keep giving energy to survive but receive very little back in return, it's not always visible. On the outside, these people might look functional, working, smiling, doing what needs to be done. But inside, everything feels muted. Joy feels like a distant language they once knew how to speak, but can't remember anymore. What's fascinating is that this isn't just emotional, it's biological. The brain, under prolonged stress, begins to rewire itself for survival. It starts filtering experiences through the lens of fatigue. The reward systems slow down. Dopamine responses weaken, and motivation, that spark that makes life feel meaningful, fades like a dimming light bulb. So when someone says, "I'm just tired," it's not laziness. It's the mind saying, "I've been carrying too much for too long." This is where psychology meets humanity. Because behind every tired soul is a story, not of failure, but of effort. People who are tired of existing are often the ones who tried too hard to keep everything together. They're the peacemakers, the helpers, the ones who always show up, even when they have nothing left to give. They've learned how to survive in chaos, but never how to rest in peace. Think about it. We live in a world that rewards productivity, not peace. You're praised for working overtime, but never for taking a quiet day to think. You're celebrated for pushing through, but rarely for slowing down. So, what happens? People learn to equate worth with movement. And when they finally stop, they feel guilty, as if rest is a form of failure. This guilt is part of what keeps people trapped in quiet exhaustion. The mind starts whispering, "You don't deserve rest until you've earned it." But that's the paradox. If you wait until you've earned rest, you'll never get it. Because in modern life, there's always more to do, more to prove, more to fix. And so, you keep running, even when you've forgotten why you started. One of the most painful truths is this: being tired of existing doesn't mean you're weak. It often means you've been strong for too long. You've carried emotions you never processed, responsibilities you never asked for, and expectations that no one could possibly meet. And after years of pretending that weight doesn't matter, your spirit begins to whisper, "I can't keep doing this." There's a psychological term called anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure. It's not about sadness. It's about emptiness. Imagine living in grayscale, where even good things feel neutral. That's what happens when the brain goes into self-preservation mode. It stops reaching for joy, because it's learned that joy is unreliable. It's safer to expect nothing than to be disappointed again. People in this state often start pulling away. Not because they want to, but because social energy becomes too expensive. Even small talk feels like lifting a mountain. They might cancel plans, stay silent in conversations, or spend more time alone. Not because they hate others, but because their nervous system can't handle one more emotional demand. But here's the thing most people misunderstand. These individuals aren't giving up. They're trying to protect themselves. When the world becomes too loud, isolation feels like a form of safety. It's like finding shelter in a storm. And even though the silence can feel empty, at least it doesn't hurt. This kind of fatigue is cumulative. It builds up from years of emotional suppression. Every "I'm fine" you said when you weren't. Every time you smiled instead of cried. Every time you stayed quiet to avoid conflict. Each of those moments adds up until one day you can't fake energy anymore. That's when you start noticing small signs. Music doesn't hit the same. Laughter feels forced. Time feels slower. You look around and wonder when life stopped feeling like life. There's another layer to this too, meaning fatigue. When people lose touch with what gives their life purpose, everything starts to feel heavy. It's not that they hate their existence, it's that they can't find a reason to keep repeating it. Wake up, work, scroll, sleep, repeat. Days blur together, and slowly they start asking questions like, what's the point? But the question itself isn't hopeless. It's a sign of awakening. Because when the soul asks, what's the point? It's really saying, I need a reason to stay. This moment, as bleak as it feels, is often where transformation begins. Because tiredness in its deepest form is a signal, a message from the subconscious saying something in your life is no longer aligned with who you are. And that realization, while painful, can also be freeing. It means there's something to be reclaimed. Purpose, authenticity, or even simple peace. One of the most profound discoveries in psychology is that meaning is medicine. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived the concentration camps during World War II, wrote that humans can endure almost any how if they have a why. People who rediscover their why often find their energy returning, not instantly, but gradually. The tiredness begins to shift from despair to direction. It says the difference between I am exhausted because nothing matters and I am exhausted because I am growing. So maybe the goal isn't to erase the tiredness. Maybe it's to listen to it. To treat it as a messenger instead of a curse, because somewhere inside that exhaustion is a voice whispering, you've outgrown something. Maybe it's a job that drains you. A lifestyle that no longer fits. A version of yourself that survived but no longer thrives. And if you're feeling that pull, that quiet ache that says there has to be more than this, you're not broken. You're awakening. There's a strange beauty in that. Because people who've known the weight of emotional exhaustion often become the most compassionate souls you'll ever meet. They understand pain without words. They sense when others are struggling, even behind smiles. They learn to speak softly, love deeply, and value honesty above everything, because they've learned that pretending doesn't heal. And maybe that's the paradox of being tired of existing. It humbles you. It strips away illusions and forces you to look at what's real. You start to realize that life isn't about constant achievement or endless motion.